Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Magic and Miracles 2, where we primarily discuss manifestation, but with the angle of entrepreneurship, becoming a better version of yourself, believing in yourself, motivating yourself, all that good stuff. Hello, how are you? My name is Anna. And I've created Magic and Miracles because I was inspired to, during COVID, to record something for people to feel uplifted again. And in the process, I created a business, Magic and Miracles, that is purely inspired by all the people that I have met on YouTube. And I've been doing that for 3 years total, 10 years coaching different people of different walks of life. Some of my clients, a lot of my clients actually, they're in the entertainment business and they have a different schedule with the YouTube. I created specifically for the YouTube clientele what's called a signature coaching program. And if you go through that and you stay with me 2 to 3 months, on average, that's what is enough. You will have the shift in your energy, thus you will quantum leap, provided you will show up and are deliberate about it. And you really take this to heart, provided my personality resonates, which is really direct. I have never disrespected, have I ever disrespected my clients? However, I also, in fact, deeply respect my clients, and therefore tell them the truth, which is what they pay me to do. What to do, what am I looking at, and what to do about it, in short. And so the coaching process is resembling therapy. However, it is not to be mistaken for therapy. I only ask a lot of questions in the beginning about your childhood, etc., all the way up until today, in order to map out your mind. I want to understand your mind. And if you let me in and you're honest, we can reconstruct your beliefs. We can process the unprocessed emotions, which are really, really important. And then we can embark on this journey of, okay, what are we working on now? How do we construct each and every single piece of your life from scratch, if that's what's needed, or it doesn't have to be. But whatever area in your life you are struggling with right now, I can definitely help. I think it's just that a lot of people are SP inspired, which totally understandable. I've been there, which is why it's dear to my heart to coach people in that department. But this channel is dedicated, like I said, to success and basically being an entrepreneur. So this is really inspired and for quite some time now. But I just didn't have the words, and so now I do. So here we are. And it coincided that I do have the time to record it, which is wonderful. And I wanted to talk about narcissistic mothers in particular. It doesn't have to be, but in particular, this will be tailored to that. Narcissistic mothers and success, essentially, in your life right now. And I can, again, really speak to this directly because I grew up in a household with a narcissistic mother. And I understand the implications, of that existence afterwards, the kinds of scars that really produces within your psyche. Because you limit yourself big time. And I wanted to discuss on my own example, and, maybe it will help you, maybe it will resonate, and maybe, hopefully it will shift your perspective. I didn't really have a good role model in my life, as a woman, growing up as a little girl, I did not have a good woman role model. It didn't exist. I had certain elements that I admired, like let's say in my aunts, but then the whole spiritual side of it was missing and of course I also had my maternal grandmother, whom I talk about all the time, but she was having issues in her own relationship from time to time with my grandfather. And for the majority of the time, she was really not savvy, in terms of like the world dealings. She grew up in a tiny village. There are like 15 people in there and all that stuff. And whilst she was just kindness incarnate and a lot of beautiful things that I would have loved in a mother, I would see my grandma, every summer growing up. And then, when we started growing up and we became teenagers, don't forget I spent a lot of time just, traveling around Europe and living around Europe. She was absent from my life. So it was kind of like in doses that I would get. But I ultimately mean a role model of a woman that I wanted to emulate, that was absent from my life. As a person who took me by the hand and showed me how to behave as a woman of value, who had money, career, her personal relationship was amazing, the house, and it was consistent. That was the other thing, that it was consistent. My family is very kind of like, I don't know, very limited mindset, shall we say. So to begin with, from both sides, mind you, the double whammy, don't you know? I'm sure you can relate. And if you can, subscribe and share and like, so more people can be kind of inspired and hugged at this moment in time. So I basically saw certain examples, certain traits, but I never saw somebody like explain to me, or nobody like took the time to explain to me about what it's like to actually be a woman, a strong one, just how to even be a woman, how to carry yourself, how to present yourself in a better light. There was no education whatsoever for me from my mother, which is devastating. And I know a lot of people can relate because I coach them. It's like, it's a replica, because a narcissistic mother essentially is unfulfilled herself. So how can she give you what she doesn't have inside? But again, see, logically today you can understand that. And you will agree. But on a very subconscious level, you really do download this message, okay? I'm all alone in the world. I'm all alone in the world. I've got nobody to fend for me. Nobody to explain even the stupidest of things. I had that loneliness growing up, big time. Simply because just certain things, like period and whatever, acne and things like that. My mother certainly didn't explain that to me. So that in and of itself, when you look around, I'm sure when you were growing up, you saw other people whose mothers were really nurturing, really caring, and really adoring of their children. And that just was so, like, it may as well have been another galaxy for you, because it wasn't even close what you were experiencing at home. And it, as you know, finances have nothing to do with it. I mean, from both sides. I mean, whether you have money or you don't have money, living with a narcissistic mother is catastrophic to your self-esteem, because you simply are not being taken care of as an individual, as somebody who deserves the education to just even exist on this planet, sort of deal. You have to construct it yourself, and which is what I did. And I constructed what it's like to be the woman of my dreams kind of situation. Now, I'm saying to you all this because it really does take time to work out that you are important. You always have been. And in fact, I would argue, if a narcissistic mother then later on continues to make you feel insignificant on purpose, there's certain maybe oversights or whatever, like it happens with parenting. I hear. I don't have children. But there's deliberate effort then on top of it to reinforce that in fact you're worthless. You're absolutely worthless. And if you dare to investigate how you even feel and what's right, what's wrong, you may feel even worse. So your value then entirely depends on the other person. You see, like, it's fucked up on so many different levels and so many levels of betrayal, feeling of loneliness, and arriving at, I've got nobody but myself. Let me just do this myself. And I'm telling you, this is the answer. You can only do it yourself. And that's the bad news. And quite frankly, the good news also. And why I'm driving this point from like all the way over there to over here, from around the mountain to over here, is because it translates your confidence and your self-esteem and your self-love. It is inevitable that it will translate in money too, because money is a form of self-love. That's all it really is. Self-love, loving who you are, and of course loving what you do. Very simple formula. If you were in doubt, I mean, it's oversimplified, it's that. But just two simple questions. Are you loving who you are? And are you loving what you do? So, in fact, realize that if a narcissist, and if you're unsure, it's also a very simple rule of thumb. If somebody's going out of their way to make you feel like shit, they're probably a narcissist for no good reason. I mean, there's no good reason for somebody to go out of their way to do anything nasty. But that's beside the point. But that's the rule of thumb. If they're going out of their way and there is no reason, they're probably a narcissist. And if they're doing that, you represent a threat to them, a threat to their fragile ego. And you're the most convenient, I don't want to say tool, but to express their displeasure with themselves. I was the firstborn in my family, and don't you know I caught all the fucking bullshit. My sister, of course, was and remains her very favorite, and that's really sad because some people can really, really start believing all the lies that they say and really just diminish themselves into nothingness. Let's not even get started with my sister. I believe she ruined her life because she's listening to my mother. And the way to break out of it is realizing anybody's a threat to them who's doing better than them. Now think how fucked up that is to begin with. That the immediate reaction that you have towards somebody doing better than you, which in the example of being a daughter or a son, a parent should be freaking ecstatic, okay? Just absolutely ecstatic, like, you go, you know? So if you experience anything than that, I remember, like, coming home sobbing because I didn't have, like, straight A's. The only subject that I failed was, of course, gymnastics, because I fucking hated gym even then. I just can't. Yoga, maybe. Walking, maybe. But other than that, don't bother me, please. Because I knew that she was going to create a commotion. I think how stupid that is. That is the opposite of encouragement. Because anybody who's doing or has a chance to, or they see them for whatever reason being better than them, it just becomes that they make it their business to try to bring you down with these limited beliefs. Now, you may not, your parent may have passed, by now, and you may think it's irrelevant. Well, the conversation continues. If you're experiencing any kind of lack or any kind of almost self-fulfilling prophecy, almost like mimicking your parents' existence. And by the way, narcissists really do end up broke. Oh my God, just do they? Really bad choices, really bad decisions, And instead of investigating, like, okay, let me just change my thinking, they go and try the same bullshit again, maybe even worse. They don't learn in that sense. So they don't have a good self-examination, looking at themselves with all honesty. So they don't know how to fix themselves. They take it out on you. And most certainly, and this is my experience over and over again, I used to be so confused by the way that narcissists react to me. I no longer am. It's just so predictable. I think they all get the same fucking memo. The same fucking memo for everybody. Isn't that dull? That's why it is a mental illness situation, because it doesn't make any sense. Okay? Your job is to untangle yourself from these bullshit energies and send them back to sender, and interrupt the conversation even if it's in your head. Okay, like I said, maybe the person passed on a long time ago, and if the conversation continues, like it's a voice at this point, you need to interrupt the fucking conversation and start talking back, standing up for yourself, something I'm really proud of. I had the presence of mind very early on to recognize my mom does not have her shit together. Neither did my dad, but my mom certainly didn't have her shit together. And so for her to make my life miserable, it didn't make sense to me whatsoever. So I just, decided that the more she will attack everything that I want to do, everything that I want to create, the more loud I'm going to be about it. And I was, as a rebellion. And thank goodness for that fucking trait in me, because she wasn't going to stop me. I went through such training with my mother. Actually, for a lot of things, I'm really grateful. There's no way I could be the person that I am today if it wasn't for my mom. I mean, there's no question about it. Now, whether you let that be a success story or you just, let the weapon not just form but go against you, if that makes any sense. I don't know. This metaphor makes no sense. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We'll find out. You don't let other people affect you, is my point. Not even if it's your mother. You have to be categorical about your energy, and you have to be categorical about your choices. And if people are triggered that you're doing good, that you're doing better than them, you don't have to apologize. You don't have to diminish yourself. You become fucking louder. You become louder. You become more persistent. Good. If it bothers you, if it's in your eyes, I am a threat to you. You've got work to do, darling, is all. But that doesn't need to affect my beliefs then on reality. Because there's certain things we can agree on that are facts, and most often than not, the person who had a narcissistic parent is so hypnotized by the lies that the narcissist concocted, the narrative, this kind of like never-ending manipulation and smear campaigns. They're so programmed that the person in my coaching has long lost touch with that version that, is really them. I don't know how else to say it. It's like I see it in them, but they're so hypnotized with that programming still that it's hard to part. That's all they know. But this is exactly what interrupts the narrative. It's like, if I was targeted to such a degree, something must be special with me, is why. Okay? Just, take it from me. Bullies, they don't go after just anybody. You have something special within you. And it's your job to recognize it. Don't wait for anybody to save you. Let me tell you this right now. The reason I started my channels, now I have like quite a few of them, Magic and Miracles, the original, Magic and Miracles 2, this one, Coaching for Coaches, and there's also Anna's List, but that's for later. I'll explain that later. To empower you to come to your own rescue, No one's going to come to your rescue. You are going to arrange it yourself. So it doesn't really matter if up until this point it was a self-fulfilling fucking prophecy that you were a failure. In quotations, it's not the end of the story, so it's not really a failure. It's just a learning experience. It really is. I'm not even trying to cushion the blow or anything like that. Learning experience. Are you fucking learning anything? If you're not, then, it'll repeat itself. But most certainly sit down. And I've had to do this for myself 15 years ago now, when I was determined to make a change. I truly acutely was aware of something being completely wrong, in so many areas of my life. And it all started with me recognizing that, my parents really fucked me up in my mind. The narrative. I was rebellious. I was this, that, and the other. I created, and yet the narrative, it carried over. It's inevitable. It's just inevitable. It's like your DNA, it comes from them. But it's up to you to reorganize your DNA and create your own DNA. And you know how fucking fun that is? Because you get to create anything. You can borrow a little bit from this, a little bit from that, as an inspiration, not to copy. Okay, an inspiration, meaning I like the feeling of this. If I was to be a perfumer, right? If I was to create something in my life, a successful story, I would read biographies, which I have done extensively, and see the commonality. And I'll, save you maybe time, but you still should read quite a bit, actually. The commonality is somebody was really passionate about it. So whatever the passion, you already have it. That's a given. I coach so many people, they always already know. It's usually, though, either the parent discourages them or has been discouraging them, let's face it, or it's their partner or whatever. Nobody's in charge of the narrative of your decision making. And you can make a decision to give up the old narrative for the new one. You can. I had to do this for myself, like I said. I had to literally sit down, write it all out, what I want to change, how I want to change it. I was tweaking my my methods back then. Everything that I'm teaching in my signature coaching program is the amalgamation of all the knowledge of the last 15 years that I've accumulated personally and then as a coach. And I decided to become that person, to have nothing to do with that programming anymore. It doesn't mean necessarily that you reject your parents. You just reject the programming. Big difference. You want to be that, generational spell breaker or whatever they call them, and become this ambition, Yes, I'm going to even take the best inspiration from the fact that I was raised by a narcissist. And I'm going to maybe help other people. I'm going to spread the word that you can do it too. I think really, people do underestimate powerfully how much potential really is there within them. And I just want to stress that and close with that. Especially if a narcissist is picking on you, it is my experience that they're jealous. End of story. There's enormous jealousy. There's complete misunderstanding of what reality even is. I wonder if they even know themselves. It's frightening what happens. It really is. It's disturbing. So how can you take counsel from a person like that? How can you base your entire existence on a person who's completely deranged, has no touch with reality? Because let's face it, the stories they tell, it's like, wow, that takes some fantasy to come up with bullshit like that. So imagine you drawing inspiration on this person right now, if you were raised by a narcissist. And you don't even have to go that far. Just look at their life. Look what they've done with their life. Simple. So how are they in the position to tell you anything? And so it becomes this quite like disheartening at the same time for them process. Well, for them, in your eyes, let's just say, you see them differently. You see them as colossal failures, and you can't believe that you took counsel, like I said, from a person like that you even considered what a person like that had to say. When you were a child, that did not happen because you didn't see it with the eyes of an adult, obviously. And if it was your parent, it's even worse. Really, really confusing. From a parent, you think the world is like this, kind of like this menacing place. And I thank God every single day, or the universe, I should say, it's just a habit of speech, for giving me this insatiable ambition to challenge everything, to kind of like persevere and stand up for myself. And I cherish this quality. And I really encourage that you do stand up for yourself, for your destiny, for whatever projects that you have, like in the dust, not doing anything because your mama told you once upon a time that you're a failure or you're no good. It may be a variation of whatever, but something to bring you down, to break your confidence, to doubt yourself, to create this bogus narrative that simply is not true. You owe this to yourself. You owe this to your story. What else can I say? It's up to you to write the next chapter of insert your name's story. There's nobody else coming to your rescue. On that note, thank you very much for listening. Like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate my audience. Until the next, ciao, ciao.